Okay. Hello, hello. I decided to start a little bit early, just 5 minutes, but let's see. I'll just give some time for whoever wants to jump in can jump in. Make sure everything is good. Wait, what the heck? Okay. It looks very blurry from my end. Let me just tell my boyfriend to get off of the Wi-Fi. Also, if my hair looks really dirty, it's because it is. If you guys are in the Discord, I'm just trying this no poo method and just seeing what happens if I just don't wash my hair with anything but water and vinegar. I don't know why it looks so unclear. It looks clear on my computer. Okay, here we go. We're good. We're good. We're good. Okay. So, we have a few minutes left. So if you are here, go ahead and grab your birth chart and the guide that I gave to you. I don't know why I always get so nervous before these. I just get like hyped, you know. I taught yoga for like how many years? 4 years. And literally before class every time I was like I just got so nervous even though I knew what I was doing. That is just the type of person I am. It's like the anticipation. Okay. It still looks a little bit blurry. You have to let me know. As long as you guys can see like the chart and everything, that's really all that matters. Okay, it says excellent condition, so I think that's a good thing. I'm just putting out the cards that I pulled beforehand. Which honestly, like, I don't know, the cards are like very abrasive, I feel like, which is kind of what I expected in a way, with like a very Saturn new moon. A very Merry Christmas. Okay. Very interesting. It's really weird watching myself. All right. Hey! I don't know why I started it early. I've just been like staring at the screen for 5 minutes. Okay. How are you feeling? It feels so Saturn to me. Like, I just feel like there's immense pressure on everyone. It almost feels like we can't go forward. We have to go sideways for some reason. I don't know, it's very strange, but interesting. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started. Can you hear me okay? And see me, because it was like a little bit blurry. I'm not sure. Mercury retrograde stuff. Okay. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to pull up your chart, Kelly, and Janelle's, and we're going to look at them. I just wanted to explain a little bit how I look at my own chart. Hello. What time is it there in New Zealand? I'm just curious. I'm super excited that you're here. Actually, this might be a really important moon for you too, Genevieve. Okay, so let's go to the PowerPoint. I didn't go too intense this time with the PowerPoint stuff. You're feeling feeling like a blob of energy. I can definitely relate. Just had no motivation, like, at all. Like, I'll do one thing and I'm done. I think we already talked about that, but I'm just... Okay, so with the PowerPoints, like I said, I didn't go too intense. Just because literally, no joke, everyone I've talked to, like, is having just a difficult time, like, finding the motivation. Or just, like, the energy to, like, comprehend things. I really think that Mercury retrograde coming to an end has something to do with that, because it is going direct on the 3rd. I think that has something to do with it. And we're still coming out of Venus in retrograde, so it's like all of our relationships too, we just feel kind of like stuck. If my hair looks dirty, it's because it's really dirty. Yeah, I'm trying this no shampoo thing. It's going great. All right, so there's so much Saturn stuff, so we're going to talk about Saturn a lot. And Saturn's like hexagon storms, and even the fixed star that this new moon is aligned with, it has to do with Saturn, for sure. It's very connected to that. It's actually like Mercury-Saturn energy, so it can be a little bit harsh, I would say, which to me that just says like stuck mentally. All right. All right, so what is Aquarius? So Aquarius, I feel, is really misunderstood. So the new moon is in Aquarius. The new moon is it's at 11:45 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. Aquarius is super misunderstood because we have Uranus involved, and Uranus is very unexpected. Uranus really disrupts the flow of things, and basically is a wild card. It's kind of like eclipse energy. It's just a wild card. It's very unexpected. You can't really fit it into a box at all because Uranus breaks out of the box. Now, I think part of the reason it does that is because Uranus is that first planet on the outside of Saturn. So for the longest time, people, astrologers, they thought that Saturn was the end of our planetary system. So when Uranus was discovered, it was like, oh my God, like this huge breakthrough. And that's really what Uranus is. It's like a breakthrough, like an aha moment, a light bulb. But it's very all over the place. Like even Uranus's orbit is just very strange and like very random, very wild. So I think Aquarius is often associated with that, but it's not necessarily true because they're fixed air. So they're very solid, like they're very balanced in who they are. They can be very stubborn about their belief systems. Like they tend to be liberal, but they're very stuck in that. Like, and that's kind of like the paradox because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus together. So in Latin, Aquarius means water bearer. And this is so fascinating. I didn't know this. I always thought the glyph was water, but it's actually electricity. So that part at the bottom left of the screen, it's actually from this book, Contemporary Astrology by Jerry J. Williams. This is really good. It really combines like astrology with esoteric concepts and spirituality and like somehow weaves it all together, and it's actually really interesting. I think this book is from the 70s. It looks 70s, doesn't it? So in that book, it says the jagged lines which symbolize the sign have sometimes been interpreted as water and are often pictured as flowing from an amphora. However, those jagged lines represent not water, but electricity. Ancient astrologers and alchemists conceptualized that force as vibrations, which were first noticed emanating from amber, which is solidified tree sap, especially when that strange and exotic substance was polished. The Greek word for amber is electron, and the unknown force which astrologers represented by two wavy lines was electricity. That blew my mind. I honestly didn't know any of that. And it also makes me wonder, I don't know if there's any connection to the Egyptian hieroglyph and the glyph for Aquarius, because they have a water one too. But it also makes me wonder, I'm what if that one represents electricity also? But for some reason, historians and archaeologists a lot of the time, they just can't accept that the Egyptians were advanced for some reason. Okay, so the element is air, the intellect, the mode, which is fixed. It can be stubborn, fixed air. It's stagnant air. So Aquarius people are just so solid in who they are, and they tend to be very detached, not necessarily in a cold way, but they're just very stable. They're very stabilized, which electricity needs to be stable. And it needs to be grounded, or else, we have anxiety attacks because we're not putting our feet in the earth. The house is the 11th house, and the keywords are humanitarian and agape. So, where is Aquarius in your chart? So the new moon is at 12 degrees of Aquarius, so where is that in your chart? What houses? And also if you have any of the fixed signs making a square angle. So if you have Scorpio, or if you have Taurus or Leo around 12 degrees, any planets, asteroids, whatever, that's going to kind of play into this new moon. And we'll talk about that too. We'll pull up some charts, and I'll just kind of explain how I look at it when we have a new moon, full moon, eclipse, whatever, and how it will be affecting your life. All right, so the next slide, this is the same book, actually. I just wanted to say shout out to Tangible Books in Chicago. I used to work for them when I went to college, actually. And I got this vintage book for a really good deal. Okay, so characteristics. As an archetype, Aquarius is very much an expression of humanitarian love, agape rather than eros. Aquarian love encompasses the entire world and all its creatures, all the things embraced in that strange new world, ecology. Aquarius is also the sign usually associated with astrologers, the notion being that the astrologer at a very early age symbolized humanitarian concern and inspiration as well. There is a certain distance about the affectional nature of persons who have a strong Aquarian emphasis, which can be mistaken for coldness or aloofness. Not so, Aquarians have an inherent capacity to take the long view, a characteristic unrelated to pride, vanity, or self. So I thought that was a really interesting explanation, because on one hand, the opposite sign, Leo is so warm, they're very affectionate, they're very showy displays of affection. They the people that they love, they want them to know that they love them. And they just come off very warm, like the sun, and their love is very seen. So Aquarius being the opposite, it's not necessarily that they're cold, but it's more so that they just kind of see humanity as the whole. So it's almost you can't give that to a concept in a way, but you also can't really totally give that in the same Leo way to that many people. That's just how I see it anyway, from what they were saying. And then in this book, he talked about the Aquarian is born inspired and seeks to inspire others with his forward-looking vision because they're future-oriented. They're inventive. They want to leave this world a better place for future generations. And it says, all air signs, Gemini and Libra are the other two. Aquarians live in the future time. I've never heard that all air signs live in the future, but I thought that was pretty interesting. We have seen that the Gemini native tends to respond to manifold stimuli by viewing the world in a term of infinite possibilities. The Libran works through others and is likewise future-oriented with a weather eye to achieving the chimera of perfect balance. If you don't think Libra is not balanced, I know I talk about this a lot, but Libra isn't balanced. They're trying to attain balance, but they're not balanced, just speaking as a Libra. And if you think that they're balanced, just spend some time with an Aquarius who's developed and very sure of themselves, and be okay, Libra is a little bit aggressive. Okay. So inventiveness, such Aquarian attitudes mean compassion rather than punitive concepts of law and justice, and the notion of infinite perfectibility of man. So basically, like the Aquarian is like the all man. They apply science and technology to improve the lot of mankind rather than to achieve power. The latter being a characteristic of its polar opposite Leo, which makes me think of kingship, basically, and sovereignty. So, all right. So, you're really going to see those like Aquarian traits play out in your 11th house and also wherever Aquarius is stationed in your chart, basically. So I know my 3rd house is not completely ruled by Aquarius. It's like a little bit Pisces and mostly Aquarius. So that Aquarian energy is usually in my mind and like in my communication, which is interesting. So depending on where it is in your chart, that will show you how Aquarian energy kind of plays out. And of course, if you have planets and asteroids there. So Aquarius rules the 11th house, Aquarius and Uranus. This is from a book, Astrology for Yourself by Demetra George, who also wrote the Asteroid Goddesses book that I really like. This is like a really like beginner's book, but I actually really enjoy it. Demetra George is awesome, and David Douglas Block. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. It says that the 11th house is your need to be innovative, original, and create social change. So it's also your social aspirations, group interactions, friends, and associations. So basically, your 11th house is your capacity to liberate yourself from past limitations, and it's also your unique individuality. So it can be very stabilizing and social and intellectual, and it can be a security thing too, like finding your security in a group. It's not like one-to-one partnerships, it's more of like your association with a big group or community. So do you guys have any 11th house placements? I've got my Venus there, which I'm only just starting to understand. I don't really get it. The 11th house is kind of mysterious to me for some reason. Maybe because mine is ruled by Scorpio, so I just like, I don't know. It's really strange. And then finally is the last thing I'm going to read here. In this book, The Modern Textbook of Astrology, mine doesn't have a cover because it's old. Modern Textbook of Astrology, Margaret E. Hone. I really recommend this book too. This is nice. It's based on a book about astrology written in the 1600s. It says, as Aquarius was said to be a detached, intelligent sign, so the 11th house, which is opposite to the 5th, refers to connections, interests, and objectives, which are more detached than those of the 5th house, which the 5th house is like self-expression, it's pleasure and enjoyment and entertainment, and just how you express yourself in general. People referred to will be friends, not close friends, who are to be considered more as partners, and acquaintances made in social groups, especially clubs or societies that meet for a certain cause, ism, or objective. All objectives come into this category. It used to be called the House of Hopes and Wishes. I've heard that before, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Hopes and wishes. It says these are subject to change and have not the personal, heartfelt meaning of those in the 5th house. Honestly, like Aquarius energy and the 11th house, it could be a bit cold because it doesn't have that Leo like humanness, like that warmth and like that love that you feel from people. It just doesn't have that. It's definitely more like detached. It's air, it can be a bit cooled off sometimes, I would say. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat and see what's happening. You thought the glyph meant wind. That's super interesting. I thought it was water. Like this entire time, I'm like, water bearer? Okay. And then I never looked into it. Okay. Venus and Chiron in the 11th. What is that like for you? I don't understand it. Like people said like maybe like a community leader, some other astrologers. And I'm like, I guess that kind of makes sense. And if you don't have 11th house, it doesn't mean, that it's not important or anything. It's just whatever is ruling the 11th house will tell you what kind of community that you're connected with. I think, Janelle, with yours, you have, I I thought you had Saturn in yours, but now, oh no, you don't. Do you? I don't remember, honestly. Venus in Chiron is like me falling in love with my friends and getting lots of wounds from friendships. That sounds interesting. Oh yeah, you do have the sun in the 11th. Wait, I thought you had the sun in the 10th house. I'm confused. Whenever I have clients who have Saturn in the 11th, they usually have a huge fear of like communities, groups. They just like straight up do not trust them. They want anything to do with it. And that's where like that Aquarius rebellion kind of energy comes in. So like if they see a group or like if they see a group liking something, they're like, oh no, like I can't like that. Like it just kind of scares them in a way. Being able to tell the difference between love and friend love. Oh, that's interesting. Mercury in the 10th, okay. All right, so we'll talk about, actually, I want to do something a little different. We're going to bring up some charts. I feel really insecure about my dirty hair right now. Sorry, keep talking about it. All right, so let's look at Kelly's chart. So this new moon is happening at 12 degrees of Aquarius. So I just kind of wanted to show why I say that and like how I would look at a chart and come to the conclusion of like, okay, this is how this moon might affect you. And actually, Kelly, yours is really interesting because you have a lot happening for this moon. All right. So this is Kelly's chart. All right. So the new moon is happening at 12 degrees and 19 minutes of Aquarius. So let's just look at her chart real quick, and then you'll kind of understand how to look at your own chart and like what that means really. You probably already know this, but I just wanted to like put it out there for anyone who maybe doesn't know or just wants to like review how this all works. So when I'm looking at someone's chart and there is a new moon or a full moon, eclipse, whatever, you want to look at what the square aspects are going to be. So square aspects are 90-degree angles. So all of the fixed signs are going to square each other naturally. So all the fixed signs, all the mutable signs will square each other, and all the cardinal signs will square each other in a chart. And the strength of that square aspect, like the closer it is to being exactly 90 degrees from each other, the stronger that square will be. So I always just look for square aspects because that's basically work that you can do to make different parts of yourself kind of integrate into each other or just learning or growth or something like that. So in Kelly's chart, she has her North Node in Aquarius. Now, what I noticed right away was that so we're looking at the fixed signs, right? Because Aquarius is fixed, so let's look at Scorpio, which is fixed water. So the first thing I noticed is that her Juno and her Pluto are actually squaring this new moon. It's actually right at like the midpoint pretty much. So Pluto, transformation, death, renewal. Juno is marriage, women, pregnancy. It's also maybe a bit of betrayal too sometimes, which Pluto is that too. But it's also squaring her sun because her sun is at 10 degrees of Leo. So the sun is what? It's your ego, it's your identity, it's what you're focused on, it's like your light magic basically. So how I would interpret this, and feel free to like put your own input and everything, is like Kelly is kind of going through like a renewal of her identity, but also a death. So it's very intense. It's also kind of like who you are at home versus who you are in the outside world, because you also have your Mars too. So your Mars is at 13 degrees of Taurus. Taurus is also fixed Earth. So your Mars is like being pulled into this whole thing as well. So it's a really important new moon for you for sure. I would think that it's very karmic, even though your North Node is like, it's pretty wide, like far away from the new moon. I still think it's important. I still think there's some kind of destiny thing playing out. And of course, with your sun in the 12th house too, that's just a lot of karma and like past life stuff. So I just wanted to explain that, like, you want to look at those 90 degree. You can also look at the other aspects too. So like what's sextiling it. let me just look. Like you have, oh wait. So you can look at in your own chart what planets will be sextiling the new moon. If it's the full moon, you're going to have planets in opposite signs. So then you would kind of look at each one and see like what sextiles, what trines, what squares. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to explain like how I put those things together. That's just how I would see it. Maybe you would see it in a totally different way. Okay, let me just look at the chat really quick because there's probably a better way to do this. It's okay. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. Like, I noticed that, like, my teacher did that and, like, some other astrologers did that. So I'm like, that makes sense because if it's a trine aspect, it's flowing already. You know, there's no work that has to be done there. If it's a sextile, it's like you're doing some work, but it's not that difficult because they kind of already go together. But when it's a square, that's like where you can make big changes and the most growth can happen. So let's look at Janelle's chart really quick now. I'm just looking at my notes here because I wanted to kind of look at it beforehand. I can't do it as quickly like as Rick can do it. So I just wanted to look at it first. Okay. So this is Janelle's chart. If I don't do yours now, also I could do it next moon too. Just kind of like send me a note or something. So lucky you, Janelle, because you have your Jupiter at 14 degrees of Aquarius. So that means this new moon is like right next to your Jupiter, which is growth, abundance, doors opening, meeting the right people, having the right situations come into your life. And it's in your second house. So this is kind of like your values, your finances, your at-home family roots. Like that's where you're seeing like an explosion of growth. And I would think that if you're not seeing it already, you're going to see it once this new moon comes. Like things are going to kind of start making sense. It's also with your nodes too. So it's a few, it's a little wide, but I still think it's important. Your North Node in Taurus and your South Node in Scorpio. So what was it at again? It's at 12 degrees. So even though it's really wide, I still think that it's important personally, maybe a little bit less so. So there's still some karma at play, I would say. Not as intense as Kelly's, but I still think that like the vibe I get from this is like you're really like stepping into who you were meant to be. Like that's how I see it. And your values are like really becoming solid right now. And like you're becoming more intellectually sure of that, and it's almost like it's like stabilizing like Aquarius way in a bit. And of course the houses also play into that. So 5th house versus the 11th house. Oh, 5th house. Wait, that's not right. Oh no, the 5th house, here it is, versus the 11th house. This is the first time I've ever done this, so like out loud anyway. So this is kind of like your individual self-expression versus 11th house, which we just talked about. So who you are in the community. So that might be, you might feel like a little bit of tug of war with that of like, who do I want to be in a group, but versus how do I want to express myself as an individual. So that's just kind of how I would see that. But this Jupiter, like that's super lucky. So this is a very blessed time for you, I would say. It is Aquarius energy, which can be stable. But this moon also is forming a square to Uranus too. So like those realizations or whatever they are, the things that come into your life, it might just like happen like an explosion, like really suddenly. So let me know if you have any questions about that. So when I say like look at your chart to see where the moon is happening, look at the square aspects and see where those are. You can look at the trines and the sextiles and the whatever, but you're going to notice or have the biggest opportunity for growth with those square aspects. So I hope that makes sense, and I just thought it would be a little bit more fun to like do this because it's more interactive and I'm not just like talking like at you guys. I don't mind or anything, but I want just you guys to like understand your chart and understand how this is like affecting you personally too. Or maybe we can just exchange ideas and you know how you see it and how I see it and whatever. Okay, so the 11th house, we already talked about that. Let's talk about the fixed star that it's aligned with and just like some little downloads, and then we'll get to the chart and to the tarot spread, which was super interesting. I feel like that stuck feeling is definitely going to leave us now, for sure. Okay, so this new moon is conjunct the fixed star Albali. That's just how I'm going to say it. I'm not sure if that's how. So there's something very Saturn about this star. Even before I looked up information, I like to look at the picture of the actual star and see what I feel from this. And I was like, wow, like the only one I felt that's more powerful is probably Algol, the Eye of Medusa. When I looked at this picture, I was like, there's something very Saturn and very structured about this star. So what I was feeling from the star, I'll just read what I wrote down. It felt very Saturn to me, and I kept seeing Saturn's hexagon storm like circling around it, and we'll talk about that. It's not very open to revealing its secrets. Like, it wasn't like all these downloads coming in or anything. It felt very secure. Like, it felt like a very Saturn boundary. So I don't know if you guys have read the Harry Potter books, but I don't remember which book it was. It was one of the later books, and Harry, Ron, Hermione, and maybe some other people, it could have been when they were trying to get that prophecy, they came into this room that was like, I don't think it was hexagon shaped, it might have been like a circle, but they would like go into the room and all the doors would spin around and then it would stop and they would just have to pick a door, and when they opened the door, all this like wild stuff would happen to them. There was like these like jellyfish creatures or something that like flung onto this is going somewhere, I promise, it like flung onto their faces and they had to like battle it, and then after they like battled whatever was in that room, they like came back out and it spun around and then they had to pick a different door. So anyways, the point being is like that to me felt kind of Saturn in a way, because it's like you're presented with these challenges and these obstacles and you don't know what they're going to be, and it almost seems like pointless and almost kind of harsh in a way. But then you battle that, you grow from it, you learn from it, and then you leave, and then you go to the next one. So that's what I was thinking. And then I was thinking the star is kind of like the end of a hammer or axe, or maybe a sickle, because that is Saturn's symbol, is the sickle. Actually, Saturn's like astrology symbol, which is also the symbol for lead in alchemy. It's like the cross of physical reality over the sickle, I think. All right, so this star is the energy of Saturn and Mercury. Saturn's hexagon storm, the swallower. So let's talk about the swallower. Let's just go here. I didn't feel like typing it out. I love Harry Potter too. I need to reread the books, honestly, because I miss it a lot. All right, so the history of the star Albali. So this star in particular, it's referred to as Epsilon Aquarii, actually. So it's called Albali, which means the good fortune of the swallower, because the strange title came from the fact that the two outside stars were more open than Alpha and Beta of Capricornus. I was expecting some like really cool like occult meaning or something, and I was like, oh, okay, it's literally just because one is like outshining the other. So Saturn's hexagon storm. So this is really interesting. So this is NASA's website. I have thoughts about NASA, but this is like their little video depiction of Saturn's storm. So for whatever reason, Saturn has a hexagon shaped storm, which is so interesting, and like I don't think they really understand why it's in that shape, and it's like constantly spinning. So that's kind of what I was seeing with this star for some reason. It reminded me of that scene in one of the Harry Potter books. And this is super occult as well, because let me pull this back up. So there's the hexagon on Saturn. Now, this is like a whole occult thing too, because if you've heard of Saturn's cube, if you take that hexagon shape and like rearrange it, it turns into a cube. So that black cube is often, it represents like Saturn worship, which a lot of different secret societies are really into. And that's like a whole rabbit hole. A lot of people think that the word Satan comes from Saturn, which I could totally see it. Like, I totally get why. I mean, the Capricorn card in the tarot deck is the devil. And a lot of different, like, religious organizations, they use that Saturn's cube, but they don't say that it's the Saturn's cube, which is really interesting. That's, like, a whole thing that you can look up. it's probably beyond this video to talk about that stuff, but it's super interesting. That's kind of like the occult way of symbolizing that they're like Saturn worshippers, basically. Saturn Nebula. So what's interesting is that in the Star Names and Their Meanings book by Richard Hinckley Allen, that's like the book that a lot of astrologers use for the star lore. East of that star, there's a Saturn Nebula that looks just like Saturn. Which I thought was just really cool, actually. Like, that is so cool. And then I put my favorite painting here of Saturn, him eating his children. This is actually, like, the tame one. There are some that are so graphic of him, like, tearing the flesh off of his children. I just didn't want to put those up. So there's something very Saturn about this. It feels like we're kind of being, like, held in a way. To me, when I was reading into this energy, it felt like we couldn't move forward. We were moving sideways, like there was some kind of block, and we have to find a way to integrate like the crosshairs of reality that we forget about because we have such a linear thinking. I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but I was talking to my boyfriend about this, and like reality is not, oh my gosh. Reality is not linear. Because the dimensions, like, we have such a linear way of thinking of, like, past, future, back, forward, but reality is, like, weaving into itself like a basket. Like, it's going this way, like, it's happening all around us, and, like, even the dimensions, we always talk about, like, the lower world, the lower dimensions, and, like, the higher world and the higher dimensions, and, like, up, down, you know, but it's happening like all around us all at the same time, and like it weaves together like a basket, like a weaver. And I think that's where all of the weaver creation myths like come in too. All right, so I think that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Oh yeah, and on the 2nd, February 2nd is Imbolc, which is the halfway point to the spring. I'm just learning about this now, honestly, I've never celebrated it. Is the halfway point to the spring equinox, so woo, we're halfway there. I was watching this video by Danu's Irish Herb Garden. It was very relaxing, and she was talking about Imbolc and how it's Brigid's holiday. She is like a fierce warrioress, basically, in Irish Celtic mythology. I don't know a whole lot about her. I know that when I feel her energy, it feels like growth and it feels like fire. She's got fiery red hair. She's a lot more fiery than I think people give her credit for, probably because Christianity was like, we're just going to take that pagan goddess and call her Saint Brigid, but she's actually a pagan goddess. And it's really just about celebrating the coming of spring and celebrating the return of life and light. It is really cold here right now, so I'm not really feeling that excitement yet. But that is on the 2nd, I believe, which I thought it was on the 1st. So don't quote me on that. I'm honestly not sure. I'm not really a good witch. I'm not a good pagan person. I don't always celebrate any of the holidays. I'm just trying to get started for the first time. All right, so let's look at the chart. Let's look at the tarot and any questions that you guys have or anything that you want to share at all. Okay, not that. Great. New moon in Aquarius. All right, so here is the new moon, 12 degrees, 19 minutes of Aquarius. I will kind of just go through the different aspects that I felt like were important, that were powerful. And I just took little notes of like what my intuitive thought was about those things. So the only exact aspect that I noticed is actually white moon Selena forming a trine to Sedna, which I don't have up here for some reason. Because it's at 0 degrees, 0 minutes orb. So that's exact. So I saw this as like tasting light and darkness and shimmering light on ocean's waves, which kind of reminds me of electricity a little bit. All right, there's a lot going on here. So just looking at the main chart, as you can see, the moon and the sun are very close to Saturn. So Saturn's ruling this new moon for whatever reason. Saturn co-rules Aquarius. So I just feel that Saturn is really important and things are getting held back. We're being confronted with issues and obstacles. And it's not to punish us, but like to inspire us to see things in a new, different, inventive, refreshing kind of way. And honestly, I feel like that's the point of this entire new moon. It's just to look at things, look at where we're stagnant, and refresh that entire situation. And if you don't, Saturn and Uranus are going to come for you. I just feel like it's a very refreshing, exciting, like a breath of fresh air. The Star Tarot card kind of energy. Like, we just need this shakeup. Like, we need this new Aquarius kind of energy to flow in right now, because it's very Aquarius stagnant, you know, it just feels very stuck after all this Capricorn energy that's going on right now. We need like that inhale again, because we're just kind of like we've been exhaling for so long, you know, that's what it feels like. The sun and the moon are also squaring Uranus. So the exact square already happened, and it's about 2 degrees apart here. Actually, less than that. We don't really want to be woken up right now. Like, that's what I feel. Like, we're really stuck. We're really in the roots. We've been doing this groundwork, I think, and we did during Capricorn season. With this square to Uranus, I think that there are certain things that we don't want to change. There's certain values. This is the second house here, so in Taurus. So things about our values, things that are important to us, things about our family and like our family structure. There's things that we don't really want to change, but like they really need that breath of fresh air. Like, that stuff has to come to light, I think. Even though it's so dark on the new moon. What else here? So Saturn is biseptile the north node. Septiles are related to the 7-pointed star. They're very otherworldly. So it's no longer an idea, Gemini. We just got out of Gemini north node. It's no longer an idea or a vision, Sagittarius. It's solid and foundational, Taurus and Saturn energy. That's how I felt about that. We also have Pluto forming a trine to the north node, as you can see here, Pluto and Mercury. The north node is where we're heading. It's our destiny, realigning with our path. So I saw this as like carving out a deeper path too. So it's not just like exciting changes. It's like going deep into the underworkings of our life and carving out a completely new path, like trailblazing, clearing the way, clearing the plains, and like starting just a new life. Like, that's how I feel. Like, it just feels so renewing to me. But of course with Pluto, like, things have to die too for us to be able to have that like beautiful deep breath and like renewing sensation. Vesta is conjunct Venus right now, as you can see. They're both at 11 degrees. Yes, so Vesta is the goddess of the sacred flame. It's our passions. It's what inspires us, what lights our flame. It's our sacred calling, how we are of service to others. So conjunct Venus, this is really interesting. I saw this as needing to view our relationships and sacred calling in a new way. So using that Uranian inventiveness to do a fresh restart, no stagnancy. I just felt like that wasn't allowed for some reason, like being stagnant, which is hard because in the northern hemisphere, it's really cold here. We don't really want to do anything. I haven't left the house in a week. So yeah, so Venus conjunct Vesta, that's actually quite beautiful in a way. It's kind of going off of this Venus retrograde that we just came out of. Like, whatever you decided to let go of during that, whatever friendships, relationships, whatever, like, they probably ain't coming back, to be honest, because it was just very Saturn, with his sickle, it was very final. So whatever we did then, like, it's really rooting into our reality, and I almost think that maybe it can't be undone. It really depends. Juno is also septile Neptune. There's a lot of like female, women, divine feminine kind of energy. So the goddess asteroid Lilith is actually quintile Saturn. So I felt like whatever dark goddess work you've been doing, and I know all of you have been doing that, that are here, you're going to start seeing the results of that, going into your reality. I kind of wrote, what did I write here? Shadow mirrors. So you're going to start seeing that stuff mirrored into your reality, which is good because you'll meet maybe other women or just other people who support that path for you of light and dark, and creating that balance between the two. Juno is moving into Aquarius also the next day, so that's like divine feminine healing. And I just keep thinking of like internalized misogyny, but like towards ourselves, that kind of stuff is coming to light, or others. but things like standards that we hold ourselves to that may be like the patriarchy and, whatever misogynistic people basically planted those seeds in our mind, like that's got to be ripped out. Like, get rid of it, channel in Saturn's energy, take that sickle and just like kill it. Call in Lilith, actually, if you want to do that too. Medusa is also sextile the sun and the moon for this new moon. So there's just a lot of healing, a lot of feminine healing. I'm totally down for that because I've been down like with the dark goddess for the last year, and that healing is so welcome for sure. And I think Hera, which is Juno, and Medusa and Lilith are really good for that. They're all great deities to work with for sure. I haven't worked with Medusa. I've seen her, but I haven't specifically worked with her in any way. I haven't really worked with Lilith either. Like, she's appeared and we've talked, but obviously all my attention and energy is going towards the Morrigan. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat and see what's happening. The only time I've really worked with Medusa has been in Kelly's meditation that she did around that eclipse that we had. I see Bridget walking the fields and igniting everything softly, even though Imbolc, I believe, is import turn of the wheel. It makes me think of that Journey song, Wheel in the Sky Keeps on Turning. I've been thinking about that a lot. Bridget is all fired to me too. I'm a pagan. I think, like, this is totally random. I think, like, paganism is, like, the overarching thing, and witchcraft is, like, a part of that. But yeah, I'm definitely really pagan, but I'm so bad at, like, following the rules and following the laws. Obviously, I'm, like, definitely celebrating Samhain, but I'm trying, like, the day comes, and then I'm just like, I don't want to do anything, because I'm lazy, honestly. Yeah, Bridget is very fiery. I heard that people who work with her, like, they don't think that. They think that she's going to be like the Saint Bridget, and then once they meet her, they're like, oh my god, it's like a flamethrower in the face. Let's talk about the tarot, and then that is all I have. So I just basically asked, oh wait, you can't see it. So I basically asked, like, what else do we need to know for this moon? I don't subscribe to any religion. I just do my own thing. Yes, same. I've tried so many times to fit in to religions. I used to be, like, super Christian. There's nothing wrong with that, but I used to be, like, hardcore Catholic, I think as long as I'm dedicated to my spirituality, no matter what it looks like, I'm happy. So these are the cards that I pulled for this moon. I was like, wow, this is like half light and half dark, and like a little bit harsh and brutal too. All right, I haven't actually like read into it too much. That's just what I felt. So the Strength card was the card like underneath the deck. Yeah, this is interesting. I was like pulling the cards. I'm like, ooh, the Mystic. Oh, the Womb. And then the Orphan, the Apocalypse, the Venom. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So the bottom deck, the original deck, the two on the left are the past. And then we have one for the present. And then the two on the right are in the future. The one all the way on the left was the one that was under the deck. So Strength is like what's supporting us right now, which honestly makes me, even though this is like the Leo card, it does also make me think of Saturn, just because I feel like Saturn is so strong and so solid and like teaches us how to really use that energy and find it within ourselves. So Strength is like what's supporting whatever's happening right now. So in the past, it's like we started on this new journey and it flipped our lives upside down. That's how I see this. It literally just took our entire world, all of our relationships, everything that we thought was something but it wasn't, and just flipped the whole thing upside down. That's how I see it. And just looking above to the mystic and the womb, this journey that we've been on, it really has helped us hone our third eye and like our spirituality and our spiritual skills. And the womb, maybe there was a lot of like womb healing, maybe a lot of like feminine healing and past relationship healing. The funny thing about the Two of Cups, it's like, it's kind of like that puppy love I see this as, like where you're just like so obsessed with this partner because they're so perfect and like you're young and you don't know what's going on. That's how I see that. So flipped upside down, it's like any of that fantasy, any of that, like those emotions that didn't have any depth, like they just got like flipped upside down and like maybe destroyed too, because of the Apocalypse card. And in this process, like you might have felt really alone too. People who were like stealing from you, people who were manipulating you or lying to you, you were like done with it. You know, you got rid of those people that you couldn't trust. You got rid of people who you knew that they were talking about you behind your back or they were doing things to you. You just kind of got rid of that as well. But I almost feel like there's some other energy here. Like it didn't just happen to you. Like this is like happening in the spirit world too. Like things shifted and things came together to make this happen. And in the future with the Ace of Swords, this is actually great. I see this as literally a brand new perspective. You're not lying to yourself anymore. Two of Swords reversed. I see that as like not wanting to see the truth actually. That's how I see the card anyway. Not wanting to see the truth or just letting yourself live in the lie. The Ace of Swords in the future, I kind of have chills actually because I see this as like you're finally piercing through all of that illusion. Like everything that held you back, everything that wasn't true and wasn't aligned with you, like you're piercing through that once and for all. Like it's happening. Like it's for sure happening on this new moon maybe, or it's already happened, or it will happen in the future. And the archetype cards are really interesting. The Venom, Apocalypse, Orphan. I actually kind of see this as very linear. I know I just said I didn't say not to do it, but I said it's limiting. However, I actually see this as being linear. So the way I would read this is like the mystic, you were born with these spiritual gifts. You were born being open and like having your third eye super charged and aligned. And the womb, you know, this could be like it could be trauma. It could be maybe just trying to integrate your creativity. But because the Orphan comes right after it, like something got taken from you, like something got taken away that you didn't think you could get back. And the only way that you can get it back was by going through the apocalypse, was by going through the death, that Plutonian, just changing everything, letting go of who you once were. And you realize that the cure was in the venom. Like, in the curse itself is the anti-curse. I just feel like everything for you guys is like very aligned, and all of these really terrible things that seemingly happened to you, and they did happen to you in your life, they really were leading you to this like aligned place where it's like, it's time to break through, like it's time to let go, and all of that stuff is the past, and like you're going to step forward with like a brand new perspective and just seeing literally everything in a new way. And like that was your gift all along. Like everything you went through, like that was what you were here for. This is why you did it. This is why all these things came together to make this happen, so that you can start over and you can start this like new life. I just got really excited. You guys have great energy. So that's how I feel about this. Let me know if you have any different ways that you would interpret those cards. That felt really positive though. The Ace of Swords is Excalibur to me, cutting through illusion for sure. Yeah, and it's like, it really like pierces it, so it can be kind of painful. It's interesting too that this card has like the crown on it, and the Strength card. There's a lot of Leo energy, I think, in this reading. You were Rasta for 15 years. Oh my gosh. And you choose what you do, but it seems to be a lot of pagan things. I know what you mean. It's like you do it, and then you're like, oh wait, this is pagan. It just makes sense. I think it's like woven into our soul or something to like celebrate the seasons and everything. Yay! Yeah, I feel really good about this. Like I'm ready, like I just want to like rip off my skin and just like move into a new life. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. I hope you have a great new moon. I don't know what you guys usually do. I just do whatever I feel. We finished a little bit early this time. Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching. And again, if I didn't get to your chart this time, I will get to it next time. Just send me a message and I will pull it up. Thank you guys so much. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Don't be so hard on yourselves. I love you guys.